Imagine sitting down at your desk, opening a journal, and just writing an entry titled, The Condo Cup, a sustainable seedling pot evaluation.
I mean, that is a very specific title.
Right, and you're documenting all these, structural and thermal and biological nuances of raising a tiny plant in a repurposed piece of trash.
Yeah.
And then you label this entry Part 951.
Which, honestly, it just forces you to completely recalibrate your definition of dedication.
It really does. So welcome to today's deep dive, where we are jumping directly into the mind of, well, an everyday innovator.
Exactly.
We've got this fascinating journal entry dated July 10th, 2026. It's written by an author who simply goes by the name Eng.
Right, and as you mentioned, this is part of a series called Notes on Gardening.
Which is just wild to me. I mean, to reach Part 951 in any process means you have moved way, way past casual observation.
Oh, definitely. The documentation we're examining today is, it's really a masterclass in iterative problem solving.
Yeah.
Because, we often condition ourselves to think of innovation as monumental, like suspension bridges or skyscrapers.
Aerospace engineering, that kind of thing.
Right, exactly. Projects backed by massive budgets and teams of researchers, but Eng's journal entry strips all of that away.
It totally redefines what we consider to be a technological breakthrough.
It does. We're looking at this hyper-focused attempt to solve a seemingly simple backyard problem, which is just, keeping small plants alive.
By balancing some pretty complex engineering principles using everyday waste. So even if you don't have a green thumb, there is so much to learn from this process.
Oh, absolutely.
But to understand the specific breakthrough Eng is chasing in this entry, I feel like we have to start with the failure of the old design.
Yeah, you always have to look at the previous iteration.
Right. So Eng has been trying to raise seedlings, and seedlings are they're highly fragile.
Extreme.
The initial setup involved using just standard recycled plastic drinking cups, but those were failing.
Right, which led Eng to substitute them with EPS-foam cups.
And we should probably clarify what EPS actually is, right?
Yeah.
Because the material properties are driving Eng's entire methodology here.
Yeah, so EPS stands for expanded polystyrene. It's basically regular plastic that has been injected with a blowing agent.
Okay.
So it creates this matrix that is composed of roughly 98% air.
Which totally explains the weight, or, the lack of weight.
Exactly.
But Eng isn't choosing this foam for its weight. The journal explicitly states these cups were favored for their durability and their ability to maintain consistent temperatures.
Yeah, the thermal dynamics of EPS are critical to understand here because, heat transfer requires a medium.
Right. Molecules need to physically interact to pass energy along.
Exactly. And because EPS is predominantly trapped air and air molecules are spaced relatively far apart compared to a solid material.
It acts as a phenomenal thermal insulator.
Precisely.
So it's like the same mechanism that stops the heat of your coffee from burning your hand through the cup
Right.
is stopping the midday tropical sun from just baking the soil.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Because the seedling lacks the deep root system of a mature plant.
Oh, true.
So it has zero thermal mass to rely on deep underground. The soil temperature within that tiny little cup needs to remain incredibly stable.
So if the ambient air drops rapidly at night, the foam slows the transfer of heat out of the soil.
Yep. And if the tropical sun beats down, it slows the transfer of heat into the soil.
So from a pure thermodynamics perspective, Eng basically found a nearly perfect low-cost insulator.
100%. But
the environment aggressively rejected this solution.
it really did.
Yeah, Eng writes that a fatal flaw halted the entire EPS experiment, which was harsh tropical winds.
Right. The cups were constantly toppling over.
Which makes sense. I mean, you have a clash between material science and aerodynamics here.
Exactly. The foam is perfectly suited for temperature control, but disastrously unsuited for a high wind environment.
Because of its geometry and mass.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. If we look at the physics of a standard drinking cup, just sitting on a table outdoors, it's essentially a mast with a sail on top.
That's a great analogy.
Right. The seedling's leaves catch the wind, and the cup itself is this cylinder that tapers down to a narrow base.
Yeah, and when the wind exerts lateral force against that shape, the narrow base acts as a fulcrum.
And because the foam is 98% air, it provides zero counterweight.
Nothing to hold it down.
Right. Using a standard round foam cup in a tropical windstorm sounds like trying to use a top-heavy, open umbrella in a hurricane.
It's just structurally doomed.
It is. The center of gravity is entirely at the mercy of the wind shear. It pivots, it falls, and the fragile seedling gets dumped right into the dirt.
And, in a tropical climate, you aren't dealing with a gentle breeze.
No, definitely not.
You're dealing with sudden, sustained gusts that will just relentlessly test the structural integrity of whatever container you leave outside.
Okay, but this is where I find myself kind of questioning Eng's logic a little bit.
Oh, how so?
Well, if the foam is this incredibly efficient thermal barrier, and we know stable temperature is vital for the seedling,
Right.
throwing out the whole system just because of the wind seems, I don't know, kind of reactionary.
Yeah.
Why is Eng constantly on the lookout for alternatives instead of just weighing the foam cups down?
Like adding a weight to the bottom?
Yeah. Drop a heavy river rock at the bottom of each cup before adding the soil. Boom. You lower the center of gravity instantly without sacrificing the thermal insulation.
I mean, I see where you're going with that, but what's fascinating here is that the physics of soil volume within a constrained environment make that approach totally counterproductive.
Wait, really? How?
Think about it. A standard foam cup holds perhaps 12 to 16 ounces of volume. A rock heavy enough to act as a ballast against tropical wind
It's going
shear.
to take up a lot of space.
Exactly. It's going to displace 20 to 30% of that internal capacity.
But plants grow around rocks in nature all the time.
Sure, but nature has infinite volume. A seedling cup has strict, unforgiving limits.
Ah, I see.
If you displace 30% of the soil with a rock, you lose 30% of your water retention capacity
Oh, well.
and 30% of the available nutrients.
So you solve the structural wind problem, but you manufacture a biological drought.
Precisely. The seedling survives the windstorm only to starve.
Okay, fair enough. Then what about manipulating the environment instead of the cup?
Like what?
Dig a shallow trench, nest the bottom 2 inches of the foam cups into the dirt. You use the earth itself to brace against the wind, and you keep 100% of your soil volume.
See, that introduces a severe scaling issue.
A scaling.
Yeah. If Eng is raising a single plant on a windowsill, a trench works perfectly. But Eng is running an iterative, sustained gardening operation.
Right, part 951.
Exactly. Imagine managing a nursery with 200 seedlings. The labor required to dig trenches, carefully place each fragile cup without damaging the roots, and then eventually extract them for transplanting.
It totally defeats the core premise of a seedling pot.
Right. The container is supposed to be portable and self-contained.
If you have to fight the container to make it function, like if it requires constant micromanagement or added labor, it's just the wrong container.
Exactly. Eng is looking for an inherent design fix, not a Band-Aid. The ideal container must provide insulation without sacrificing stability. It needs to resist the wind purely through its own geometry.
Without requiring external crutches like rocks or trenches.
Right.
Okay, so because adding ballast ruins the biological environment and burying them ruins the labor economy, Eng is forced to seek out a radically different structural design.
Which leads to a pretty unexpected discovery.
Yes, an architectural inspiration found in the snack aisle.
I love this part.
Me too. Eng introduces something called the Condo Cup.
Yeah, and the Condo Cup isn't sold in garden centers. According to the text, it is a consumer packaging product from a neighboring country.
And it's specifically engineered to hold instant noodles and snacks, not drinking water.
Right. The author notes that its name comes through its physical shape, which actually resembles a condominium building.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is a brilliant shift in architectural geometry.
It really is.
Think about it. A standard drinking cup is built like a skyscraper. It has a tiny footprint on the ground and builds straight up, often getting wider at the
It's
top.
inherently unstable.
Exactly. But the Condo Cup features this wide, square base. It is built like a low-rise condominium designed to survive an earthquake.
Yeah, and from a structural engineering standpoint, the square base fundamentally alters how the object interacts with lateral wind forces.
How so?
Well, to tip a cylindrical cup, the wind only needs to push the center of mass slightly over the curved, narrow edge.
Which offers minimal
But
resistance.
it's a smooth pivot.
It just rolls right over its own footprint.
But to tip a container with a wide, square base, the wind must exert enough force to lift the entire mass of the soil and water over a flat, extended edge.
Oh.
The center of mass has to travel significantly further upward against gravity to reach that tipping point.
Because the wide stance drastically increases the surface area anchored to the ground.
Exactly.
So structurally, the geometry neutralizes the tropical wind. But shifting to a noodle cup brings up the thermal issue again, doesn't it?
It does.
We know the foam was excellent at insulating the soil. Does Ang sacrifice the thermal protection to get the structural stability of the Condo Cup?
Actually, no. The text highlights a crucial deduction Ang makes based on the cup's original purpose.
Right, holding hot food.
By definition, a container designed for instant noodles must be able to hold boiling hot water.
Yeah.
It has to withstand temperatures of, over 200 degrees Fahrenheit without melting, deforming, or burning the hands of the consumer holding it.
Well, if it can isolate boiling water from human skin, it can certainly isolate room temperature soil from a hot tropical afternoon.
Ang explicitly concludes that the Condo Cup handles hot water well and provides excellent insulation.
So whether it utilizes like a double-walled plastic design or some different expanded polymer, the thermal resistance engineered into the snack packaging translates perfectly to the needs of a seedling pot.
Perfectly. The structural and thermal variables appear to be solved simultaneously.
So structurally and thermally, this noodle cup is basically a fortress for dirt. Does this mean Ang has found the holy grail of seedling pots?
You would think so, right? But the journal entry quickly pivots to identify a massive biological obstacle.
Of course. Nature always imposes its own constraints.
Always. You have to remember the original purpose of the Condo Cup.
To display consumer snacks on a retail shelf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Therefore, the manufacturers designed the cup to be transparent. Yeah. Ang writes, the only caveat is that the cup is transparent, which is not ideal for root growth and formation.
So what does this all mean? Why does a plant care if its roots can see the sun?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah. I mean, we spend so much time making sure the leaves get enough light. It seems weird that light would be a problem below the soil.
It comes down to cellular signaling and a biological process known as negative phototropism. Roots have evolved over millions of years to function in absolute darkness. They use gravitropism and the absence of light to orient themselves downward and outward to seek moisture.
The roots are essentially like vampires.
Yeah.
They need a pitch-black environment to thrive and do their job.
That's actually a really good way to think about it. When light penetrates a transparent container and hits a root tip, it fundamentally alters the plant's hormonal distribution.
Really?
Yeah, specifically a hormone called auxin. The light signals to the plant that the root has breached the surface of the soil.
Oh, wow. Which means it thinks it's no longer in an environment where it can extract water or nutrients.
The biological response is immediate. The plant halts the outward expansion of that root.
It just stops growing.
It will either harden off the root tip to protect it from draining out, or it will prematurely redirect its energy into developing like green shoot growth above ground.
Long before the root system is robust enough to support that new growth.
Exactly. The plant tricks itself into thinking the foundation is finished when it has barely started.
Not to mention, if you have a transparent wall letting sunlight hit moist, nutrient-rich soil,
Oh, yeah.
you are creating a perfect incubator for algae.
Yep. The algae will coat the inside of the transparent plastic, competing directly with the fragile seedling for nitrogen and oxygen.
So it creates this entirely hostile, microscopic ecosystem right against the root wall.
It does.
I mean, I understand the biology is flawed, but let me challenge the severity of this caveat for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Prior to discovering the Condo Cup, the tropical wind was a catastrophic failure point.
Right, total loss.
The foam cups were toppling over and physically dumping the plants onto the ground. If the square shape of the Condo Cup completely eliminates the wind threat and the insulation manages the heat,
Yeah.
can't we accept a slightly suboptimal root system?
Mm-hmm.
Ang's own words just say it is, quote-unquote, not ideal. If it accomplishes 90% of the job perfectly, is transparency really a total deal breaker just because it's not ideal?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, to understand why Ang refuses to compromise, you have to look at the tags on the post.
The metadata at the bottom.
Right. Ang tagged this post with the exact date, 07/10/2026, along with Condo Cup, eps-foam, notes on gardening, and seedling-pot.
Yeah, that level of meticulous categorization isn't the habit of someone looking for just a quote-unquote good enough hack.
It's the behavior of someone optimizing for perfection. Ang is seeking a sustainable and affordable alternative that works on all fronts.
Okay, I see.
You mentioned that a compromised root system is better than the plant being dumped on the ground.
Right.
In the short term, yes. But the singular biological purpose of a seedling pot is to cultivate a robust, aggressive root foundation.
So the plant thrives when it is eventually transplanted into the field.
Exactly. If the foundation is stunted by light exposure in the nursery, the adult plant will fail to yield crops or survive a drought later on.
So the failure is just delayed.
Yeah. A transparent cup compromises the fundamental biological purpose of a seedling pot.
Because a true engineering solution does not manufacture a new biological flaw to fix an old structural one.
Well said. Ang states in the entry that the Condo Cup would be the perfect affordable alternative only if it were available in black.
Meaning the search for the black Condo Cup continues.
It has to. The transparent walls violate the foundational needs of the organism inside it.
It is just a remarkable distillation of how difficult true innovation really is.
It really is a balancing act.
It is. You solve the thermal problem with foam, but you create a structural problem with the wind.
Right.
You solve the structural and thermal problems with the square noodle cup,
Right.
but the retail transparency creates a biological problem for the roots.
It reveals how human engineering constantly struggles to mimic the elegant efficiency of nature.
Yeah.
I mean, the Earth itself provides a heavy, dense, naturally insulating environment that is structurally impervious to wind and completely opaque.
And Ang is attempting to isolate and recreate the complex physics and biology of the Earth's crust inside a lightweight, mass-produced, affordable piece of plastic.
Which perfectly explains why this journal entry is part 951.
Right. It takes hundreds, if not thousands, of iterations to artificially mimic the perfection of dirt.
Exactly.
So the takeaway from this journey is that Ang's journal entry proves true innovation is a balancing act.
Yes.
You need the molecular thermal protection of trapped air. You need the structural stability, the lateral resistance of a condominium square base.
And you absolutely require the pitch black darkness that drives hormonal root growth. It also challenges us to reconsider the sophistication of the objects we interact with constantly.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, think about the industrial designers who engineered the Condo Cup. They were solely focused on shelf stability, retail visibility, and protecting a consumer's hand from boiling water.
They inadvertently solved a complex aerodynamic and thermodynamic puzzle for a tropical gardener thousands of miles away.
Without even knowing it.
And that is the challenge we want you to take away from this deep dive. The next time you are breaking down cardboard or tossing plastic packaging into the recycling bin, look closer at the geometry.
Look at the material properties.
Exactly. How many perfectly engineered condo cups are sitting in your hands right now? What mundane item possesses the exact structural integrity or thermal resistance to solve a completely unrelated problem in your own life?
You know, there is a final provocative thought that emerges from Ang's text, one that points toward a totally different avenue of innovation.
Oh, what's that?
Well, Ang explicitly states the ultimate goal is an affordable alternative.
Right.
We know the transparent Condo Cup has the perfect aerodynamic shape. We know it has the perfect thermal insulation.
The only variable preventing it from being the holy grail is the passage of light.
Right. It needs to mimic the opacity of the Earth.
Yeah.
So if affordability and sustainability are the ultimate driving factors, perhaps the most elegant solution isn't spending years hunting down a rare manufactured black variant of this specific noodle cup.
Wait, what if the cheapest, most effective solution isn't hunting down a rare black version, but simply finding an eco-friendly way to modify the transparent ones already in our hands?
Exactly. A physical intervention to block the light.
Could a simple exterior coat of non-toxic paint do it?
Or even just tightly wrapping the square base in repurposed opaque newspaper. Could that bridge the gap between a compromised root system and biological perfection?
Wow. Yeah, modifying a flawed material is often the bridge to the ultimate design.
It really makes you wonder what part 952 of the journal looks like.
It really does. True innovation doesn't always require a multi-million-dollar budget. Sometimes it just requires a square noodle cup, an understanding of lateral force, and a roll of recycled paper. Keep analyzing the everyday structures around you, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.